Picture a muggy night in Jacksonville, Florida, the kind where the air sticks to your skin like a bad memory. Jess Harper, a white cop with 15 years on the beat, is cruising the pier, her sharp eyes scanning the rundown streets she's sworn to keep in line. She's tough, proud, the kind of officer who thinks she's seen it all: fishermen hauling shrimp, late shift workers dragging home and beat-up trucks. Then she spots it. A shiny silver SUV cutting through the shadows. No turn signal, just a smooth, cocky glide around a corner. To Jess, it's not just a traffic violation, it's a red flag. That glossy ride screams privilege, and in her gut, she's already decided who's behind the wheel. She flicks on her lights, pulls it over, and out steps Derek Coleman, a black man in a tailored suit, calm as a still pond. She doesn't know he's her new police chief yet. All she sees is a guy who doesn't flinch under her stare, and that sets her off. Words get sharp, tension spikes, and before she can think twice, her fist slams into his jaw, a wet crack echoing under the dim streetlights. She smirks, thinking she's taught him a lesson. But that dash cam's rolling, and soon enough, it's viral, branding her RacistCopUSA across every screen in America. That moment's the spark that lights Jess's world on fire. And it's a brutal reminder of a truth we've wrestled with from coast to coast. Snap judgments about race can blow up in your face and everyone else's. In a country where traffic stops have turned into hashtags, think Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. This isn't just a story, it's a mirror. Jess isn't some cartoon villain twirling a mustache. She's a cop who's spent years building instincts, keeping order in a chaotic city, and in that split second, she lets prejudice call the shots. Derek's not a thug or a threat, he's a man in a suit, driving home but to Jess. His skin and that fancy car paint a target. It's the kind of bias that's fueled protests, torn cities apart, and left us arguing over body cams and accountability. Her punch isn't just a bad call, it's a domino tipping over, setting off a chain reaction she can't outrun. The fallout's ugly and fast. That video hits the internet, and Jess goes from enforcer to enemy overnight. Protesters swarm the precinct, bottles smashing against her cruiser, signs screaming, "Justice for Derek." She's a hashtag now, a punching bag for every keyboard warrior from Florida to California. It's the American way viral outrage moves quicker than lightning, and once you're labeled, good luck shaking it off. Jess doesn't see herself as a racist. She's just doing her job, keeping the streets tight. But that's the trap, isn't it? We've all heard it, cops, neighbors, even ourselves sometimes making excuses for that gut feeling that's really just a stereotype in disguise. The story doesn't let her off the hook, though. It shows how one rash move, fueled by a flicker of bias, can spiral into a war she never saw coming. Derek's not just some driver, he's her boss, and he's got the power to hit back harder than she ever could have guessed. This isn't about Jess being bad or Derek being good. It's messier than that, and that's what makes it hit home. America's been wrestling with this stuff forever. Slavery's scars, Jim Crow's ghost. Today's headlines about profiling and police. Jess's story is a gut punch because it's personal, but universal. She's not a KKK hood-wearing caricature. She's a working stiff who let a prejudice slip, and it cost her everything: her badge, her home, her sister Maggie. Derek, meanwhile, flips the script, using his own power to crush her, proving the system's just as twisted as her snap judgment. It's a vicious cycle we've seen play out on our streets and screens. Bias sparks conflict, conflict feeds power, and power buries the little guy, Jess included. So, yeah, when Jess swings that fist, it's not just a punch, it's a flare lighting up the dark corners of how we see each other. It's a question for all of us. How quick are we to judge, and what happens when we're wrong? Drop a comment 1 if you think Jess got screwed by her own mess, 2 if you reckon she had it coming. Hit like if this one stung, and subscribe if you're down for more real talk tales. Let's keep it going. What's this say about us, right here, right now? So, Jess Harper's night on that Jacksonville pier didn't just end with a bruised fist and a viral video, it kicked off a war she wasn't ready for. After decking Derek Coleman, a black man in a slick SUV who turned out to be her new police chief, Jess thought she'd asserted control, taught him a lesson under those dim streetlights. She smirked as he staggered, blood on his lip, figuring she'd won the round. big mistake. That punch, born from a snap judgment and a flicker of prejudice, didn't just blow up online, it woke a sleeping giant. Derek wasn't some random driver, he was the guy with the keys to the kingdom, and he wasn't about to let Jess walk away unscathed. What started as a hot-headed cop's power trip turned into a brutal lesson in who really runs the show. And spoiler alert, it ain't her. Derek Coleman doesn't mess around. He's not the type to yell or throw punches back. He's colder, smarter, and way more dangerous. As chief, he's got the whole system in his back pocket, and he uses it like a sledgehammer. First, he frames Jess for a murder she didn't commit, planting her own gun at the scene of a kid's shooting ballistics matching her initials scratched into the grip. Then, he watches her apartment burn to ash, a "next time you burn" note scrawled in soot. When that's not enough, he plants drugs in her sister Maggie's basement, hauling her off in cuffs while Jess screams from the porch. This isn't revenge, it's a calculated takedown. Every move a chess play to bury Jess deeper. Derek's not just settling a score, he's showing her the system doesn't forgive defiance, especially from a grunt like her who dared to swing at the top dog. For Americans, this hits a nerve we know too well. The little guy versus the machine. Jess is that scrappy underdog. We root for the lone cop, who's dodged bullets and busted dealers for 15 years, thinking grit could carry her through. But Derek's the establishment, the suit who doesn't break a sweat while he crushes her. It's like watching a factory worker take on a corporate titan, or a whistleblower staring down a government cover-up, think Aaron Brockovich, but with no happy ending. In the US, we love cheering for the rebel, the one who flips off City Hall and lives to tell it. Jess tries that, storming Derek's office, even kidnapping his kid to force a confession on livestream. But the system's a beast, and Derek's its master. SWAT swoops in, snipers put a slug in her shoulder, and she's cuffed on that dock, bleeding out her defiance while he dusts off his pristine suit. This isn't just personal, it's a power play that screams America's dark side. We've seen it in real life. Cops bending rules, politicians dodging scandals, CEOs skating while workers eat dirt. Derek's untouchable because he's not fighting fair. He's got internal affairs, precinct cronies, even the media spinning his web. Jess, meanwhile, is outgunned, outmaneuvered. Every punch she throws bouncing off a brick wall. That viral racist cop label? Derek lets it fester, turning public outrage into his weapon while she's ducking bricks from protesters. It's a rigged game, and she's the sucker who didn't see the deck was stacked. Her 15 years of busting her ass means squat when the chief can snap his fingers and make her a villain murderer, arsonist, bomber, you name it. Jess's story isn't about winning, it's about surviving a system that chews up rebels and spits them out. That punch on the pier wasn't just a racist misstep. It was a middle finger to a power structure that doesn't budge. Derek's retaliation proves it. Step out of line, and the machine doesn't just push back, it crushes you. For us, it's a gut check. How many times have we seen the big guys skate while the little guys left in the dust? Drop a 1 in the comments if you think Jess got screwed by a system too big to fight. 2 if you reckon she should have known better. Hit like if this one's sticking with you, and subscribe for more tales that don't sugarcoat the truth. What's your call? Can you ever beat the Derek Colemans of the world? Or is the game over before it starts? So, Jess Harper's world didn't just catch fire after punching Derek Coleman, it got flattened by the system he controls. That night on the Jacksonville pier, when her fist met his jaw, she didn't just spark a viral racist cop storm, she pissed off a chief who wields power like a loaded gun. Derek didn't flinch, he framed her for murder, burned her apartment to cinders, and locked her sister Maggie in cuffs with planted drugs, all while smirking from his pristine office. Jess, the scrappy cop who dodged bullets for 15 years, was outmatched, crushed under a machine that doesn't forgive a rebel's swing. But Jess isn't built to roll over. She's a fighter, the kind of American underdog we'd cheer for in a bar brawl or a courtroom showdown. And after Derek's system chewed her up, she didn't just lick her wounds, she went for blood. Revenge became her oxygen, and damn, did she chase it hard. This isn't some petty grudge Jess wants Derek to pay for every brick he's stacked on her chest. She's lost it all, her badge, her home, her last shred of family. That slow bleed Derek engineered, turning her into a pariah. Stripping her life piece by piece lit a fire she couldn't douse. So she goes full vigilante, the kind of move we'd see in a gritty action flick. She tracks down Derek's son, a college kid named Jamal, lures him with a fake call, and shoves a gun to his spine, duct taping his mouth shut. Dragging him to a rotting dock on the St. Johns River, she texts Derek from Jamal's phone. Doc, 7, or he's gone. When Derek rolls up, cool as ever, she's got the revolver cocked and Jamal's phone live streaming, her voice a snarl. Confess everything or he's fish food. Derek spills it, framing her. The fire, the drugs all live for the world to see. Jess grins, thinking she's finally got him by the throat. She's not wrong, protests erupt. He's forced to resign, but that taste of victory sours fast. See, revenge is America's favorite double-edged sword. We love it. Think The Equalizer or Kill Bill, that lone wolf settling scores with a righteous fury. Jess channels that, betting everything on this one play to make Derek bleed like she has. She gets her moment. His confession goes viral. His empire cracks. And for a hot second, she's the Avenger we'd high-five over a beer. But here's the kicker. Every swing she takes costs her more than it does him. SWAT storms the dock, a sniper's slug rips through her shoulder, and she's cuffed in her own blood while Derek dusts off his suit, his kid safe. Her live stream wins the battle. Sure, Derek's done as chief, but the war? She's the one left broken, hauled off in an ambulance, facing kidnapping charges while he walks away, smirking. That's the brutal truth Jess learns. Revenge feels sweet until the bill comes due, and it's always steeper than you think. For us, this hits deep because we've all fantasized about sticking it to the man, whether it's a shady boss or a crooked cop. Jess's vendetta is that fantasy cranked to 11, but it's got a dark twist we can't ignore. She's not Liam Neeson walking off into the sunset. She's a battered wreck, her sister still scarred, her freedom a pipe dream. Derek's system bent her until she snapped, and her revenge-grabbing Jamal, forcing that confession was her last-ditch swing to even the score. It worked, kinda, but at what cost? Her apartment's ash, Maggie's traumatized, and Jess is cuffed to a hospital bed, laughing through cracked teeth as the wind sinks in, but it's a hollow one. America loves a payback tale, but this one's asking, you sure you want to cash that check? Jess's all-in bet proves Derek's a snake, but it leaves her a shell, proving revenge might burn your enemy, but it'll torch you too. Drop a 1 in the comments if you think Jess's revenge was worth the carnage, 2 if you reckon it buried her deeper. Hit like if this one's still rattling around your head, and subscribe for more stories that don't pull punches. What's your take? Does getting even ever really settle the score? Or is Jess proof it's a sucker's game? Jess Harper's revenge play on that Jacksonville dock was a gut-wrenching Hail Mary. After Derek Coleman's system crushed her, framing her for murder, torching her apartment, cuffing her sister Maggie with planted drugs she snapped, she kidnapped Derek's son Jamal, held a gun to his head, and forced a live-streamed confession out of the chief, his smooth voice admitting every dirty trick he'd pulled to bury her. That red dot blinked, the views climbed, and Jess grinned through the chaos, thinking she'd finally flipped the script on the bastard who'd turned her 15-year career into ash. She wasn't wrong. Derek's words sparked a firestorm, protests swelled, and he resigned in disgrace. But if revenge was her fuel, justice was her endgame, clearing her name, freeing Maggie, making Derek pay. Trouble is, justice in America's a slippery beast, and Jess's version came with a hell of a price tag, one she's still paying, cuffed and bloody, wondering if she won or just broke even. See, Jess didn't just want Derek to hurt. She wanted him exposed, the world to see him for the snake he was. That live stream was her courtroom, her gavel slamming down as his confession looped online. I set her up, the gun, the bombing, the drugs. For a moment, it worked. The public turned on Derek, chanting outside his office, forcing him out. Maggie's charges got dropped, the planted drugs unmasked as his last jab. Jess, battered on a hospital bed with a sniper's slug in her shoulder, laughed a raw, jagged sound, thinking she'd clawed back some shred of what he'd stolen. It's the kind of justice we Americans eat up. The little guy sticking it to the man like a David versus Goliath remix with a viral twist. But here's where it gets messy. Jess didn't walk away a hero. SWAT crashed her victory party, cuffs snapped on her wrists, and now she's facing kidnapping charges. Derek's down, sure, but she's not up. Justice, personal or public, didn't set her free. It left her in a cage, staring at a win that feels more like a draw. This is that classic American tug-of-war between "I'll make it right myself" and "let the system sort it out." We love a Lone Ranger, think Clint Eastwood, squinting down a barrel, or a whistleblower, leaking files to the press. Jess went full cowboy, betting everything on that dock to force her own justice when Derek's machine rigged the game. She got results Derek's career's toast, Maggie's out, but at what cost? Her badge is long gone, her apartment's rubble, and she's a felon now, not a cop. It's like those courtroom dramas we binge on Netflix. The bad guy's unmasked, the crowd cheers, but the hero's still bleeding out in the corner. Jess's story flips that script we know so well. Justice isn't a clean win here. It's a trade-off, a half-empty glass she's gulping down while Derek's shadow lingers, smirking from the sidelines. He lost his throne, but she didn't reclaim hers. She's just the wreck left standing. For us, this cuts deep because we've seen it play out IRL cases where the truth comes out, but nobody's popping champagne. Think of exonerees walking free after decades, only to find life's moved on without them. Or activists taking down a corrupt official, but catching jail time for how they did it. Jess's fight mirrors that. She wanted her name cleared, her sister safe, Derek in the dirt. She got 2 out of 3, but the system she bucked didn't let her off the hook. Her personal justice grabbing Jamal, streaming that confession clashed with the public kind. And now, she's the villain in orange, not the victor in blue. It's a bitter pill. You can win the battle, expose the rot, but the war? That's a grind that'll strip you bare. Jess thought justice would feel like triumph, but it tastes like blood and handcuffs a lesson that, in America, getting even doesn't always mean getting whole. Drop a 1 in the comments if you think Jess's justice was worth the wreckage. 2 if you reckon it's a hollow W. Hit like if this one's sticking with you, and subscribe for more tales that dig into the gray. What's your call? Does nailing Derek make Jess a champ, or just another casualty of the game? Jess Harper's fight for justice left her laughing through cracked teeth in a Jacksonville hospital bed, cuffed. Sure, but triumphant for a hot second. She'd forced Derek Coleman, her ex-chief, to confess his sins live on that dock, framing her, torching her life, cuffing her sister Maggie, all while a sniper's slug burned in her shoulder. That viral video was her gavel, slamming down hard enough to make Derek resign in disgrace and free Maggie from his planted drug trap. It was the kind of gritty personal justice Americans root for a lone cop, sticking it to the system that crushed her. But rewind the tape, and it's clear this whole mess, this half-win that cost her everything, started with one dumb move, that punch on the pier. Jess's hot-headed swing at Derek wasn't just a spark, it was a match tossed into a gas can. And every rash choice after that just fanned the flames until her life was ash. That night by the fish market, Jess didn't see a chief in that silver SUV, just a black guy in a suit who didn't flinch. And that rubbed her wrong. 15 years on the force had her cocky, instincts sharp but unchecked, so she let her fist fly, smirking as Derek's jaw cracked. She didn't know he'd turned the system into a meat grinder with her name on it. But that's the thing about dumb moves, they don't come with a warning label. In America, we're raised on, you reap what you sow, that pioneer vibe where your choices build your fate. Jess's fate kicked off right there, a single swing fueled by prejudice and pride that handed Derek the ammo to dismantle her. She thought she'd won the round, but it was game over before she even clocked it. Her badge, her home, her sister, all dominoes toppling from that one punch. Every step after just dug her deeper. Trusting her rookie partner, Ryan Ortiz, dumb move, he taped her ranting about those people and fed it to Derek, sealing her racist cop rep. Storming Derek's office, taunting him post-trial. Another misstep, he slashed her hours at that warehouse gig, then watched her get jumped by a mob chanting his name. Kidnapping Jamal to force that confession? Ballsy, but reckless swat, turned her victory into a bloodbath, and now she's facing felony charges. Each choice was Jess doubling down, her temper flaring hotter than the Florida sun, thinking grit could outmuscle Derek's machine. But he played the long game, cool and calculated, letting her swing wild while he stacked the deck. That's the brutal lesson here. One bad call can start a landslide, and if you keep swinging blind, you're just piling dirt on your own grave. For us, this hits like a barstool sermon. Think of that grizzled vet warning, one wrong turn, kid, and you're toast. America's full of stories where a split second screws you, drunk drivers losing it all, CEOs tanking empires with a dumb tweet. Jess's tale is that on steroids, her punch didn't just bruise Derek, it gave him a blank check to ruin her. She fought for justice, sure got Derek's confession, freed Maggie, but at what cost? No badge, no home, a rap sheet longer than her arm, and a sister scarred by the fallout. That dock showdown was her last stand, but it's rooted in that first night when she let impulse call the shots. We love a fighter, but Jess proves you can't outrun your own mistakes when the system's waiting to pounce. So, yeah, Jess's story is a neon sign flashing, think twice, or pay forever. That one dumb move on the pier wasn't just a punch, it was her signing up for a war she couldn't win clean. Drop a 1 in the comments if you think Jess could have dodged this mess with a cooler head. 2 if you reckon she was doomed from the jump. Hit like if this one's still echoing, and subscribe for more raw cuts like this. What's your take? Can one mistake really tank your life? Or did Jess just play a bad hand worse? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. See you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. See you in the next one.